Hey, everybody. So I just was feeling pulled to pull some cards about kind of this upcoming week and what's some guidance that Spirit has for us about how to kind of deal with the upcoming week. Not necessarily specifically about the debate, but kind of, what can help us, what we maybe need to expect, etc., stuff like that. um, Especially for those of us that are trying to save democracy. So, okay, so I pulled some cards, and then and I also tried to record this earlier, and it didn't fully record, so I'm doing it for a second time, which is a little bit annoying, but I still have the cards that I pulled, so I'm going to try to kind of redo what I did before. All right, so the first card, and this is from the Light Seers Tarot, one of my favorite decks. The first card is the Eight of Wands. So I find this interesting because the Eight of Wands is kind of smooth sailing, clear path ahead, definitely good energy. And the feeling I got about it was kind of like it's kind of like after a difficulty or an obstacle or something has been dealt with, there's smooth sailing. So in a way, thinking about kind of the debate on Tuesday, it's a big deal. It's a big event. So the kind of hoping that after that event on Tuesday, something gets done, something gets more solidified in our favor, and then it's kind of like full steam ahead without lots of obstacles. Wouldn't that be lovely? So Eight of Wands as a first card is very good. The second card is the Ten of Cups. All right, so the Ten of Cups is one of the, and I have to say, all these cards were really positive, which makes me feel good. The Ten of Cups is like happy home and family, and tens are kind of culminations, so things getting to a final completion. There's someone that I watch on TikTok, he's an astrologer, and he talks about Kamala's birth chart and astrology around the election and how some of the big things going on right now are in her fourth house of home, and how he's kind of seeing it as like her being like the home being kind of the homeland, okay, protecting the homeland, becoming in a leadership position to support the homeland, which I think is really cool. So I find this Ten of Cups interesting because if you think of that, of her as like the Ten of Cups being her getting the final fulfillment of the more supportive, the more positive, like presence and leadership of the homeland. I love this. And then the home and family, and then the American citizens, like, were the family. So this is like a happy home and family. I love it. I think it's beautiful. Then our next card was the World. The World, which is definitely a kind of, there's a few different ways to look at this. In terms of the concept of like, what do we need to know? How do we need to best navigate kind of this week? The World makes me think of, one, trying not to get too pulled into details and negative vibrations and negative energy, right? Because you can see how the world is like, it's this big circle. So it's almost like there's a bit of a circle of protection. And you can see how the lady's like looking up toward the light, right? And she's trying to stay in like kind of the higher realms and stay on a positive path. And so I also feel like, in a way, it might be saying, saving democracy and what we're trying to do with getting Kamala into office, that actually helps the whole world. It's important for the whole world. So I feel like it's kind of telling us, like, try to stay in that bigger picture mentality. Try to look at the broader worldview. Try to look at how everything is interconnected. Like, we live in a very global world. It's just the reality that we find ourselves now. So try not to get too pulled into like negative energy, and things like that. Yeah, the World is an interesting card. Years ago, when I first started doing tarot readings, I used this deck called the Mythic Tarot, and it was the World, like, literally showed, they called it the World Snake. So it was like a full completion of like a cycle, which was very interesting. And it was kind of like balance of going through all of the actually all because when you study tarot, sorry, I'm going to go into like teacher mode here for a second. When you learn about the tarot, that what's called the major arcana, which is the first 21 cards, they're in order, kind of following different life experiences. And the first card is the Fool, which is like innocence, naivete, needing to take a risk. The final card is the World. So it's like the full completion. And then all the cards in the middle from 1 to 21 are all different kind of life experiences, archetypes, different things like that. So I find it interesting that it's the final completion of kind of everything coming together. It's very positive. Then our next card was the Six of Pentacles, which here we go again. This is a wonderful card. And Six of Pentacles is also one of my favorite cards in the deck. I mean, Six of Pentacles has to do with equal give and take, generosity, and also just that thing of how sometimes the world and the universe it's just kind of benevolent, and things just go our way without us having to like get all stressed out and try to control everything and work really hard. Sometimes things just kind of go well. So, and I think it was even Einstein who said that the universe is actually friendly. It's more like humans and the ridiculous shit we do that like messes it up. But anyway, I digress. So the Six of Pentacles, in this sense, I think of generosity of spirit, right? So for those of us who are trying to preserve democracy, and those of us who will be voting blue, that like generosity of spirit is the way to be, to also help one keep us from falling so much into a state of like despair or negativity, or even getting like too caught up in people's like drama and stuff. And generosity of spirit is something that's probably needed. There's another person I watch on TikTok, and he talks a lot about it's important for everybody to, send love and share love, even with like the crazy people who are like saying crazy stuff. And I try to look at it that way, because I look at it as though I'm trying to hold space, right? Hold space for after we win, and then people over time start leaving the cult. I'm just holding space to be like, yeah, you are definitely welcome back on Earth One. Maybe you had to leave for a while for some reason, and that it's not always easy to stay in that state. And don't get me wrong, I have my moments where I just want to be like, what is wrong with these people? But I think this is kind of what it's saying. And I also get the feeling Kamala, as she does when she talks in her campaign messages, she talks about how she will be governing for everyone. So she doesn't set up division in that way, where the other guy, he certainly sets up division all the time and just talks about like, basically throwing people out of the country. So I digress. But anyway, generosity of spirit. I think that's something that's important. Then our final card is the Wheel of Fortune. So interesting as a final card. Ebb and flow. The ebb and flow. Michelle Obama, I think, talked about this in her DNC speech. She talked about, look, there's going to be days where we see some bad poll numbers. Somebody says something bad. People are spreading lies. There's going to be those moments. So just be aware that that's going to happen, and try to, as much as we can, try to get back to the more positive, getting stuff done, keep moving forward energy, and try not to stay too stuck when we get something negative happens. So ebb and flow. And Wheel of Fortune. I also feel like Wheel of Fortune, especially upright, is typically a good card. So it means that things are moving in your favor. So ultimately, I think that's what's going on. But in the context of the question here of what do we need to do to kind of stay to best support what we're trying to do this week, I think it's like, be aware there's an ebb and a flow. Not everything's perfect, and that's okay. So these are great cards to come up. So yeah, smooth sailing. She's definitely here to support the homeland and our family of Americans. Stay in touch with the higher message, and try to not get too lost in the details, even when we're being pulled down by others trying to drag us into their negativity. Generosity of spirit. Try to stay in a state of generosity of spirit as much as possible. and understand that there's going to be an ebb and flow, but it'll work itself out. Have a great day, everybody.